Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're doing something really exciting. We are building what I like to call your personal hero's toolkit for continuous educational growth. Now, we're going to be pulling from some heavily researched, highly effective strategies that were actually originally designed to help middle schoolers achieve mastery. But look, make no mistake, whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who loves learning, these tools are going to absolutely transform how you process and retain complex information. Let's get right into it.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever just grinded away at a subject for hours, maybe even days, only to step back and wonder, wait, am I actually getting any better at this? It's incredibly frustrating, right? Hitting that plateau where you're putting in maximum effort but seeing zero progress is the worst. Well, don't worry, because there is actually a scientifically proven much better way to learn. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, unlocking middle school mastery. 2, finding the 20% core. 3, active learning strategies. 4, the iteration log. And finally, number 5, predict, result, calibrate.
All right, Section 1, unlocking middle school mastery and building your personal toolkit. Think of this section as outfitting you, the hero of our story, with the exact gear you need to take total control of your own learning journey.
But before we can pack up this new toolkit, we actually have to throw out what's been holding us back. You know the drill, rote memorization. Just endlessly repeating facts until they supposedly stick in your brain. Honestly, it's an outdated brute force approach, and it absolutely does not build expert-level thinking. True mastery? That requires critical analysis and pattern recognition. We need to care about the why and the how of a topic, not just mindlessly reciting the what.
Moving on to Section 2, finding the 20% core, which is your absolute key to accelerated learning. Because true efficiency, well, it starts with knowing exactly where you need to focus your limited time and attention.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. Look, you do not need to learn every single detail of a new topic with equal intensity right out of the gate. That's a recipe for burnout. Instead, your goal is to identify the 20% core. Those are the fundamental anchor points, the absolute non-negotiables of the subject. Because here's the magic. Mastering just that foundational 20% naturally unlocks and supports the remaining 80% of the material. It's like building the frame of a house first. Everything else you learn later just easily attaches right back to that sturdy core.
Which brings us to Section 3, active learning strategies, your new tools for expert thinking. This is where we shift from passively taking in information to actively dominating it.
Knowing what to focus on is a great start, but now we actually have to process it, and our first real tool for that is the Feynman technique. The idea here is simple, but extremely powerful. Take a complex, messy idea and try to explain it in the simplest terms possible, literally, as if you were teaching it to a kid. The second you stumble or catch yourself trying to hide behind big, fancy jargon, boom, you've just pinpointed exactly where your knowledge is weak. It's brilliant because it completely strips away your ability to fool yourself into thinking you know something when you really don't.
All right, tool number 2 in your kit, mental model maps. Think of learning like a giant web. You don't want to just toss a new fact in your brain and hope it stays put. Instead, you intentionally connect this entirely new piece of information securely to something you already deeply understand, usually by using a real-world example. When you map concepts together like this, you aren't just memorizing random facts anymore. You're recognizing patterns, and that makes recalling that information later almost effortless.
Then we have our third tool, which is spaced repetition. We've all been there, cramming the night before at 2 a.m., but let's be real, that simply does not work for long-term recall. The information just evaporates a week later. Instead, you want to systematically review your material at increasing intervals. Spaced repetition is quite literally the ultimate mechanism for locking those newly simplified, deeply connected concepts into your permanent long-term memory. It's a total game changer.
Let's head into Section 4, the iteration log. This is your personal growth tracker, and honestly, it's the climax of our whole system today. Because learning isn't just about input. You need an ultimate feedback loop to actually monitor your progress and adjust for impact.
We've spent a lot of time talking about how to learn, but how do you know if it's actually working? You absolutely need a feedback loop. Now, you might picture learning as this perfect straight line shooting smoothly up and to the right, but actually, scratch that. It is almost never like that. In reality, it's a jagged line. Having slip-ups, making mistakes, hitting those low valleys, that is completely normal. The trick is that with strategic tracking, you ensure the overall trend of that jagged line is always moving upward.
As our source material beautifully captures, this graph shows a learning journey. It's not always a straight line up. And honestly, thank goodness for that, because navigating that bumpy, jagged path is exactly how we develop crucial psychosocial skills. That friction, that's where you build true perseverance. It's where you learn how to set realistic goals, and most importantly, how to mentally push that line back up after you've hit a low point.
Which sets us up perfectly for our final section. Section 5. Predict, result, calibrate. These are your 3 concrete steps to mastery. Let's look at how to actually use this tracker.
So this right here is the operational engine of your iteration log. It's super straightforward. Step 1 is predict. Before you start a task or take a test, ask yourself, what do I think will happen? Step 2 is the result. After it's done, ask what actually happened. And then comes step 3, calibrate. You ask, why was my prediction different from reality and how can I fix it? I cannot emphasize this enough. Step 3 is the absolute most crucial part of this entire process. This is the exact moment where the deepest, most permanent learning actually happens.
Now, what's really interesting about this is seeing the process play out in real life. Imagine a student taking a quiz on historical dates. Their prediction, I'm going to get 7 out of 10 correct. The actual result, I got 5 out of 10. Okay, so now they hit the calibration phase. Instead of just sighing and giving a vague, well, I guess I just need to study more, the learner gets highly specific. They say, I rushed the last few questions and I totally confused 2 different dates. So next time, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to use my StoryLink method to remember them. See the difference? They diagnose the exact error in real time and arm themselves with a concrete strategy for next time.
This iteration log is so powerful because it truly empowers everyone, no matter where you are in your journey. If you're feeling frustrated, it totally prevents that awful feeling of being stuck by pointing out highly specific things you can fix. You aren't just bad at history. You literally just rushed through 2 dates. And for advanced learners, it's the perfect diagnostic tool to fine-tune your strategies and really push for that ultimate top-tier expertise. It builds serious, unshakable confidence.
So the crucial point here is perfectly summarized by this idea. This is deliberate practice with feedback, and it's absolutely critical for mastery. That's the whole philosophy in a nutshell. Taking charge of your own learning through consistent, honest reflection, actually learning from your mistakes, and making a targeted, specific plan to do better, that is the true secret to becoming an absolute expert in anything you do.
All right, look at where we are. You now possess the ultimate toolkit. You know how to find the 20% core, you have active comprehension strategies, and you know exactly how to run an iteration log. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Will you choose to become a master tracker starting today? On your very next project or your next assignment, are you just going to blindly cross your fingers and hope for a good result? Or are you going to predict, result, and calibrate? Try it out, track it, and watch your jagged lines soar to new heights. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer.